If you want a report that paints one of the most accurate pictures on the cost of living in Singapore, look no further than the recent study titled Minimum Income Standard 2023 Household Budgets in a Time of Rising Costs. This study was conducted by the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy and Nanyang Technological University. The researchers are pretty experienced in this field, so you can be sure that the report will contain some pretty important stuff about the basic cost of living in Singapore. But what's interesting is that when this report came out, the Finance Ministry, Manpower Ministry, and the Minister of Social and Family Development came out with a joint response, where they pointed out the conclusions of the report may not be an accurate reflection of the basic needs. Similarly, when the 2021 version of the report came out 2 years ago, MOF made a similar comment, saying that the report may not be an accurate reflection of basic needs, largely due to assumptions used. So in this video, we will go through the report to find out what's going on. How much exactly is the basic standard of living in Singapore? What other data did it find? And more importantly, why did the government disagree with the report? But before I start, do join my Telegram group to discuss or ask any questions that you may have. And with that being said, let's jump right in. First up, the report showed that if you are a couple with 2 children aged 7 to 12 and 13 to 18 years old, a couple will need $6,693 to have a basic standard of living. When I first saw this number, I'd be like, wow, really need so much meh? Sure not. So I decided to try out their calculator, and I've got to say, most of the numbers were actually quite accurate. Here, I've got me, my wife, and my 2-year-old kid, and it showed that my household will need around $4,900 a month or $1,128 a week. For food, we will need to spend around $290 for 7 days, so that's about $41 per day as a family. Pretty accurate. For clothing and personal care, personally, I don't spend that much on clothing and footwear, but if I were to add in baby diapers, some body soap, and facial products, the numbers would roughly add up to this amount. Public transport, $80 a week is more or less there, especially if we need to occasionally take a taxi. Housing, $214 a week. Wait long ah. Ever since the bank loan interest has gone up, my monthly loan payment is $1,600 or about $400 a week. Household goods and services, the numbers are roughly there. Healthcare and insurance, I'm quite sure me, my wife, and my kids' insurance will add to more than just $22 a week. Social participation, stuff like phone bills, entertainment, and holiday expenses. Again, I believe I spend a lot more on holiday expenses than just the tiny $21 a week. Childcare school fees, yep, $126 sounds about right. So yes, I would say the $1,128 weekly budget is pretty accurate, though the budget shown here is more on the low end. Also, as my fellow bet holder Eric pointed out, this budget entirely ignores the famous parents' allowance. According to a survey done by HSBC, it was found that 8 in 10 Singaporeans are supporting their parents financially. So if we were to add in that, we would easily exceed the weekly $1,128 budget. Next, if we were to take the $6,693 budget for a couple with 2 children and divide it by 4, we will get $1,673 spending per person. This number is actually pretty close to what the government has got in their 2017-2018 household expenditure survey, where it found that a household member spends $1,628 on average. But with this number, it also shows that around 30% of Singaporean households actually make less than what's required for their basic needs. This includes people who work as cleaners, laborers, service and sales workers, and those who have a lower education. Besides that, the report also showed that if you are a single elderly aged 65 years and older, you will need $1,492 a month for basic standard of living. In order to even get half of this amount during retirement, you will need to have enough cash savings or meet the CPF basic retirement sum of $99,400 in 2023, in which case you will receive $870 payout from CPF Life, starting from the age of 65. But if you check the CPF annual report, there are a lot of elderly aged 65 or older who are unable to meet the $99,400 amount in their CPF, which means they would barely have enough CPF payouts to live on. Good news, Weibo has further upgraded the sign-up promotion even more. From now till October 31st, if you sign up using my link down below, fund any amount and keep the money there for 30 days, you will get to win 2 free shares worth up to 2,000 USD in total. And the best part, you don't have to do any trades, and that is literally free money. But of course, Weibo is not just about their fantastic sign-up rewards. One of the useful features that they have is their paper trading feature. To access it, go to Menu, then tap on Paper Trade. Here, you'll be able to test out stocks and options trading. They even give you $1 million fake money to try it out. This is super useful if you are just starting out and you are scared to invest your money, as you can easily test out your skills or without losing any money. So sign up to Weibo now if you have not done so. With that being said, let's get back to the video. So that's a quick summary of the report. But then, why is the government disagreeing with the numbers? That's because they feel that the numbers in the report are not just for basic needs like housing, food and clothing, but it also includes wants and discretionary expenditures such as jewelry, perfumes and overseas holidays. However, in the FAQ page of the report, the researchers explain that the study is about needs, not wants. And to make this as accurate as possible, 2 things were done. First, the participants were from diverse backgrounds. For example, in the 2021 study, 15% of the participants live in private properties and 18% live in public rental flats. As for educational profile, 82% of the participants aged 25 to 54 years old had post-secondary education. This was closely reflective of the general population. Second, all the items in the budgets were based on consensus among the participants, and things they could not all agree on were left out of the budget. It also explains why jewelry is considered a need, because it is for things like earrings, hair clips and brooches, as it is important to look presentable at work. Similarly, holiday is included, because otherwise a family on a basic standard of living will never be able to travel out of Singapore in their lifetime. And with this, it points out something important. While the government defines needs as enough to simply survive in Singapore, the report defines needs as something more, something that would enable us to have a basic sense of belonging, respect, security, and independence. In the government's defense, they are actually aware of the poverty issue and have been addressing it over time. We know this because the government's social spending has almost doubled from $18 billion in 2011 to $34 billion in 2021. As a result, we have seen income inequality, or the Gini coefficient, slowly going down over the years, especially when government transfers are taken into account. We have also seen reports showing that fewer people are earning a lower income, while more people are earning a higher income now. As for addressing the low income, the government feels that having a universal wage floor may not be the best way to solve the poverty issue. Instead, the progressive wage model may be a better solution, where their pay rises according to their skills. And this is also one of the basic principles of the Singapore government. As mentioned on the CPF page, Singapore's social policies embody the national philosophy of active government support for citizen self-reliance. Or a simpler way to put this is, the government won't just blindly support you. Instead, they will help you, but indirectly. For example, giving you skills future credits so that you can upskill yourself, or introducing the Kickstart program so that parents from lower income families can afford to send their kids to school, or the Working Mothers Child Relief, where mothers will get tax relief if they continue working. This is what our new president Tharman has called the trampoline model, where the government doesn't just provide a safety net, but also to help people to bounce back up. However, even with the increase in social spending over the years, the study pointed out that ideological resistance towards social protection has not loosened, and there's still a lot more that needs to be done. While the government's trampoline approach may be good, it is not without its flaws. For example, the progressive wage model doesn't cover every low-wage jobs, and the wage levels still fall below the report's proposed $2,990 amount required for basic standard of living. And because the CPF is entirely driven by income from work participation, people whose careers are disrupted will find it hard to meet the basic standard of living when they retire. All in all, this report is important, not just as a data point, but also to remind us that while the situation is certainly improving, a lot more still needs to be done. With Singapore being one of the richest countries in the world, it's important that while we are focusing on growing the nation, let's not forget the pledge to build a society based on equality so as to achieve happiness and prosperity.